This is the Astrology and Tarot Show with Jessica Adams.
Thanks, Shane. Here is your Astrology and Tarot for the week starting March 17. The best place to hear the Astrology and Tarot Show is on substack.com because you can also pick up your daily horoscope there. Your tarot cards are incorporated in your astrology this week. But first, if you have Aries factors in your birth chart, it's time to take more precautions over your image, appearance, identity, even if it's just on social media. Be more cautious on March 28, 29 and 30, as it's not the easiest time for your appearance, your profile, your title or your image. There are lots of reasons for this in your chart, so just be extra cautious perhaps about how you are seen, how you appear, your identity and your ID. On to your stars this week. Aries, freedom and independence with your money, property, possessions, your business, charity, or your life budget is your key to a big Independence Day coming by July as Uranus moves through Taurus. This may also concern a house, a block of land, or an apartment, as your ruler Mars is in the real estate, renovation, and relocation sign of Cancer. This week, there is a big pointer to June 2025 and July, the following month, which is when you begin the biggest and best cycle in 12 years for property, rent, renovation, redecoration, and even emigration. So this week has an arrow showing you next June 2025 until June 2026. You could so easily be in a bigger and better home environment. In July 2025, looking further ahead at your chart from this week, the lack of certainty also stops that has been there since 2018 with your money or your property or your business. Uranus will be out of Taurus next July. So all of this is gathering speed in your chart, and as I've said, the arrow is pointing there from this week. Even if with Mars retrograde in Cancer, you still don't have normal momentum with your home or real estate, there is method to the universe's madness, and where you end up next June 2025 is where you need to be. The door will open then to something or someone so much bigger and better. This is not just about what is happening with the US economy. It is also about your own economy, and the tarot shows the same thing. At the moment, financially, it's stop-start, yes, no, maybe, and a lot of don't know. This affects everything from your bank to your shopping, your credit card, or your shares. But have a look at what the experts are saying about the second half of 2025 and the housing market, because that could be really interesting for you. And if you want to personalize this reading, Aries, draw a tarot card from my website, jessicaadams.com. Taurus, well, let's talk about success, ambition, position, and your mission as Pluto in Aquarius powers forward. What seemed to be outside the realm of possibility 2 or 3 years ago can now become a real asset for you in terms of quite new power and control. If you banked on transforming an old professional, academic, or unpaid work relationship back in January, you will now realize how empowering that choice was. Now here you are, and you are being offered the reins. Your paid job, your unpaid work, or your study is offering you almost nuclear levels of power this year. You're being shown what that can feel like in your chosen field, your course, or your true calling in life, which you may not even be paid for. In 2025, so many people will retire or resign, switch profession, go back to an ex-employer, form a staff member, and transform what is there. It's clay on the potter's wheel, and that's really what this week is all about, getting the clay and understanding what you're trying to remodel, remake, or reshape in the interests of your own success in life. Things are now highly political, where you work, where you study, or with something that you're not being paid for. Understanding the people politics this week is also about understanding that there is a game of musical chairs being played and that the music will change repeatedly this year. So, whenever that happens and everybody switches position, you also have to be ready to find your chair. So, you have to be a bit of a strategist this week and also understand that plotting and planning is pretty normal on this cycle and it's also quite desirable. Your tarot is saying the same thing. This is a bit of a chess game, and you need to be ahead of the game as other people will make their moves and you need to be ready to make yours. Gemini. Thanks to Pluto in Aquarius, you have a long and life-changing choice with travel, publishing, foreign people and places, the World Wide Web, and academia. Even a new life in a new place. All of this is on offer to you with one crossroads after another in 2025. And your tarot this week says that the next 7 days is one of the turning points. Now, you can experience this cycle without packing your bags. You can do it where you live, with foreign people or foreign concerns and ideas coming closer. So you may be attending a Zoom workshop in a different city or taking evening classes or making a commitment to further education. Pluto in Aquarius in your ninth house tallies with several tarot cards at the moment, which talk about you possibly emigrating eventually or bringing foreign people closer to you who are also on the move. Less dramatically, you could be traveling more ambitiously. This is a long cycle, and this year is really the first full dose of the cycle that you've had. This week reminds you that Pluto is about empowerment if you work for it. Aquarius does rule life in other countries, but also other nationalities and cultures. And therefore, we do find universities there, as well as the World Wide Web. Something really important is developing here, Gemini, and you are in a position to take full advantage of it. What you're going to have to do in return is use self-control that you didn't know that you had, as willpower is the key to your superpower this week and ongoing. Cancer. Let's talk about the retrogrades, rethinking, rescheduling, relaunching with foreign people and places this week. This includes the World Wide Web for obvious reasons, publishing and/or education. Cancellation and delay is normal, and it will be some weeks before you get to the end of all this rehearsal and reversal, connected to a different nationality or a country far away. It's wise to have Plan B and Plan C with foreigners and foreign countries now. You have all these rehearsal and reversal cycles in the sign of Pisces in your chart, which rules people from other countries and cultures, but also places just across the map where they speak your language but are so different to you. So if you're in America, that could be Canada. Retrograde cycles like these are very good for rethinking, rescheduling, and rehearsing. Be aware of all the loops and the circuits, though. It may be as trivial as a French cookery class that gets rescheduled, or as big as an export program for your business. If you're curious about these cycles, there's more on my website at jessicaadams.com. And Cancer, if you have anything in Sagittarius in your birth chart, you can double this message. At the moment, all these retrogrades, when planets appear to be moving backwards and forwards, are sending a lot of people off schedule or off balance. You need not be one of them, because using astrology, you know that this is actually all about taking mental notes, doing research, and doing preparation. Later on, when these cycles break, you will find yourself in a completely new position in terms of travel, migrants, people from other cultures, export, and relation matters, like, for example, international students or foreign tuition. While it's taking time to come together, though, you get to figure out what you really want and need. Leo, Uranus in Taurus at the top of your chart ongoing does rather suggest more new freedom for you and independence in terms of your goals and also your roles. Now, some of it is on your CV and some of it is not. But while Uranus is operating in the 10th house, triggered this week, you need to use the freedom, which stops in July. So the tarot cards also agree. This week is about understanding this doesn't last forever. You do have more room to move with a side hustle or just far more time to do what you want for whatever reason. You are also being encouraged to try new inventions and innovations with technology or something that you even create yourself. With your career, your unpaid work, or your study, you could now reinvent the wheel and get a lot more space, a lot more room to move. Nobody said that you had to do your job or pursue a course or unpaid work in the same old way that everybody else does. And nor does a particular line of business have to be done traditionally or as others have always done it. Uranus in Taurus in your chart is about the world repeatedly turning upside down in your career, university or college degree, or with your unpaid work. And that has been happening since 2018. When it stops in July, you will realize that things are more or less settled. And from 2026, your professional life, your academic career, or your unpaid work will no longer be as unpredictable as it has been for the last few years. This week tells you the rewards for all of this are, in fact, Independence Days, plural, and it's independence which is yet again on offer for you if you're prepared to change. Virgo. Well, Virgo, you have a self-control, willpower, and self-discipline issue with your work, your unpaid work, like housework, or your study this week. Pluto will remind you how important it is to run your own show. You could make great progress with colleagues, staff, clients, customers, or classmates, and people who are connected to your unpaid work or study once you realize that this is down to you. Willpower is your superpower this week, and the tarot agrees. Pluto is in Aquarius in your sixth house of service and duty, health and well-being too. So if you think you need a new fitness routine to master a hugely demanding but rewarding new challenge, you are correct. And yes, you would have to discipline yourself to do both. However, if you want to get it right, think of Pluto as a new kind of superpower. This is also showing up in your birth chart, Virgo, because you were born with the sun in Virgo in the sixth house of well-being and work ethic. And now for the first time in 18 or 19 years, the South Node is in Virgo. Same thing, same place. So there is an unusual focus at the moment on your health on all levels. So that's physical health, mental health, your fitness to serve, and your fitness for duty. We do associate this cycle with the armed forces because of the discipline, but also because of the power that comes just from having a daily routine. You can become physically more powerful on this cycle and stronger, but you can also acquire far more clout and influence in terms of your job, your course, or your unpaid work. Pluto is really one of those transits that you never forget. And this week sees, once again, this pattern rising up to meet you halfway and asking you to roll up your sleeves and do what it takes. Libra. Well, this week I'm talking a bit about the impact of Pluto in Aquarius on all the signs. And for you, it's in your fifth house, which is about babies, children, teenagers, and a younger generation. Also relationships which might end in parenthood or step parenting. Libra, if you have Leo factors in your birth chart, you can double that message. But whatever your birth chart looks like, the tarot cards agree this week. Some younger people in your world will teach you about power on control, and it goes into work or study too, for many of you, or unpaid effort with a younger generation. Most commonly, this is going to be about your son, your daughter, nieces and nephews, godchildren and grandchildren. But it can also turn up if you're a teacher who has a class of children, or if you're writing books for teenagers. So it's on that level. This week, you take on the Pluto obstacle course and you come out with more strength. It's empowering. So understanding how it works this far into the year is part of the bargain, because if you want to be further ahead by next January and February 2026, this week is one of the stepping stones. For some of you, this is an intensely personal transit, and you are consumed by being a step parent, adopting, fostering, having IVF, or dealing with issues about a son or daughter that are front and centre. In other cases, it's not quite as important, but you will still find a basic lesson this week that if you want to feel in control of a situation, you are going to have to use your self-control. And if you want to find empowerment rather than feel that someone or something else is running the show, then you do actually have to use your willpower and grit your teeth. You'll see why by Sunday, but this week could be such a useful turning point in this very, very different kind of year. Scorpio. Jupiter in Gemini in your chart offers you financial solutions and property opportunities ongoing with the bank, your house, an apartment, your business, charity, or ownership. Your tarot cards show that there is expansion and assistance until June with finance, valuables, shares, and related matters like insurance, inheritance, a pension, or superannuation. It seems that you need to act on who or what was offered to you probably in November or December last year, and this personal situation would recently have come around again. There is still another opportunity with them connected to a date in April. Go back and think about should have financially or could have in terms of property or business, and do your best to try to make it happen while luck is on your side, because Jupiter is all about luck. This cycle in your solar 8th house ends in June, so you don't have long to go. But while it's taking place, what you're being offered this week is the chance to take another step forward with a big solution financially or a really huge open door in terms of a house or apartment or a block of land. None of this happens all in a rush, and none of it happens out of the blue. You've seen the possibilities there since last year, and this week is about things coming together for you so that when the door does open, you can take the key and go through it. Sagittarius, well, with this Pisces weather in your horoscope, there is family or household karma. It's also the kind of karma that goes backwards. So allow for a circular or repetitive situation with somebody in the household or somebody in the family tree. Your relatives, as they were 18 or 19 years ago, carry the karma. You are owed from that time, or perhaps you owe. And sometimes the issue 18 or 19 years ago was a flatmate or somebody in the household. The familiarity of the themes or the déjà vu sensation this week shows you how the past can come back. And this is down to the North Node in Pisces in your 4th house, which rules your family circle, those at home, or the property itself. We have endgame cycles in Pisces. In the final week of March, Neptune goes, and in the final week of May, Saturn goes. So if you feel as if there's going to be a big line drawn between the middle of the year and the end of the year, you're quite correct. As you go towards June, for example, you're going to see lots of developments around you where you live, but also in your country, tied to the building industry, mortgages, and the whole question of home and how home works for you. This is because of a cycle that's bigger than you are, and it's not too long to go now. It will affect the family or the household. If you do have Cancer factors in your birth chart, then on a personal level, June 2025 to June 2026 could see you at a peak with big new opportunities and answers for particular relatives with flatmates or a living partner. Whatever your chart looks like, though, Sagittarius, your tarot cards this week agree. This week is a launch pad for what you really want and need in terms of feeling at home with your people or your place. Capricorn. Well, this week I found both a Lenormand card for you and also a tarot card which say the same thing. This is about money, shares, property, insurance, business, charity, taxation, and valuables. And What you need to do over the next 7 days is understand that even when everything is changing all the time, you still have to find the reins and run the race. The race, in some ways, is with yourself because you are now at a point in your life where only self discipline and willpower are going to work. And this may be about the rent, it may be about your bank account, or about your corporation. Pluto is pretty demanding. It takes no prisoners. So, what you actually have to do is push back against trends that are beyond your control, apparently, but which you can control if you change what you're doing. It may also be that there are people or organizations around you, as well as situations which make you feel as if something huge is there staring you in the face. This may be that you are personally affected by, for example, what's happening on the share markets. It may be about somebody at home or your employer. But whatever you're dealing with this week, you're being shown that the way through is to roll up your sleeves and do what you have to force yourself to do, almost gritting your teeth to do it. But the sense of empowerment will be very strong, and that's the reward, because you come out of this cycle having developed new strength, new self-reliance, and indeed, over the long term, real power, real clout, and real influence. Aquarius. So let's talk about Pluto in Aquarius, your own sign, in your zone of image, brand, reputation, and appearance. At least once this week, you will be put through a test regarding the same. Losing weight is an example, and public speaking on Zoom is another. There may be bigger issues for you at stake. If you have anything in Aries in your birth chart, I would double that message because this is about so much more than just who you appear to be in the mirror or who you are on Google. It's actually going to change everything. Even if you don't know your chart or don't have Aries factors, your tarot cards are still saying the same thing. This week is about a step forward in relaunching who you are, your exterior, your surface, and not your substance. And yet it is the exterior that will do all the work for you this year. It is amazing how much is attached to how you appear on the internet, for example, or just what goes into your identity or your ID. Pluto tells you that there is no fast or easy shortcut. There is no easy or lazy way through this. In fact, quite the reverse. If you want to get powerful results from relaunching yourself, maybe 2 or 3 times this year, then this week relies upon you understanding that you are the boss of yourself and nobody and nothing else comes close. It may look as if things are out of your hands, but in actual fact, it is down to you to get a firm grip and navigate and steer. Even if you don't normally spend a lot of time thinking about yourself, your chart is telling you, and so is the tarot, that now is the time for you to do just that. Because when everything transforms, you need to make sure that you're in control of that process and that you can steer your image to where you want it to be. Pisces. Well, it's time for another U-turn with the internet, publishing, education, academia, and or the media. What you adapted to last year, you have to adapt to again, or even get rid of it. This week asks you to come up with more exciting and liberating ways to use the written or spoken word or images. So you may be using the latest technology, inventions and innovations online, or a completely different way of using your voice across all mediums and media. This also shows up in your birth chart. There you have Jupiter in Gemini in the same chart zone, the internet, education, publishing, and media. So there are some really big options here. And if you're one of those Pisces who have factors in Gemini, then you can double that message. The tarot agrees. You're being shown how to be free and how to find more independence with the web, TV, radio, magazines, newspapers, schools, universities, and other forms of connection, on a microphone or by telephone. Uranus moves in stops and starts. It is like an electrical storm. You tend to get a lightning bolt that comes from nowhere, and then everything frees up. It feels different, and that's what's going to happen this week. In addition to this, you have a bit of a deadline here because by July, the cycle will end, and maybe July or August is already showing up in your diary or calendar. What will happen this week is going to point you in a direction that you had not expected, that is unprecedented, unique, unlikely, unconventional, all the U words for the U-turns that Uranus represents. But every time that happens, you find that you are now free to go or free to do things very differently. And that's going to result in a really interesting spin on the project, the plan, or the course, which is now front and center for you. Thanks for listening. Don't forget that the Tarot and Astrology show is on substack.com, and I'll see you next week.